This show is brought to you by the Genesis Communications Network, a world leader in talk radio since 1998. Visit gcnlive.com today.
You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
We're on with Gene and Grumpy Chris.
Not always grumpy, come on.
Well, you know what? You have this avatar on Skype. You're smiling. That's the way I like to remember you and think of you.
Well, you know, when you go to an event like Chaos in the Desert or Contact in the Desert and see all the bliss bunnies and the wonderful love and light folks that are slowly edging ufology away from any sort of semblance of objectivity, it's kind of hard not to get grumpy. But, you know, I should take Greg Bishop and Red Pill Junkie's advice and just not buy into it. You know, it's a personal problem that these people have. You know, there's nothing you can do about it, bitching and moaning, being grumpy. So I just had fun while I was there. I did a poll, which got quite a number of responses. Basically, the question was, does Giorgio, use a male hair product, or does he use Aquanet?
This is not about Donald Trump, is it?
No, it's about Giorgio Tsoukalos, ancient alien, Mr. Hair Guy. So I had a lot of fun. Somebody added a new poll, multiple question answer, which is sticking his finger in a light socket. And when I elbowed my way through the crowd of women around his little booth, I did pose the question on camera to him, and he instantly said he puts his finger into a socket to get that hair effect. So I guess the truth now is out. We've settled the controversy, and I was able to get out from the azalea bushes where I was hiding, so I wouldn't be kicked out for being a crasher. Going to put together a video for after the Paracast crowd or the Paracast Plus crowd, and show some of the craziness that went on in 105-degree heat. It's just brutal. I mean, I went into the cafeteria. It's $20 for lunch, right? And they have these little tiny wheat thin sized slices of, well, I can't even call them a pizza slice, just little chunks of pizza. And they were ice cold. I mean, they could barely keep the cafeteria below 90. And for $20, you'd think at least the pizza would be warm. The poor wilted kale salad. I mean, that's a real moneymaker, Gene. Those people are really generating some major cash flow there. The people that own the retreat center also are putting on the event. So it just has to be seen to be believed. But, make sure you wear your air-conditioned underwear because you're going to need it.
I would think they'd be able to offer hot pizza just by leaving it outside.
You would think, right? But no. So anyway, yeah, if that makes me grumpy, that makes me grumpy. What can I say? I'm going to try to turn over a new banana leaf and, kind of work on my attitude a little bit.
I don't know. I think we sometimes need to have an attitude that's a little bit grumpy, because some of the things that go on in this crazy universe make us feel grumpy.
You think?
Oh. The reason I maintain an even keel is not because of John Keel, by the way. An even keel is because I am a trained radio broadcaster. So they always said, you got to be cheery. No matter what's happening, you've got to be cheery. I remember. Did you ever hear Hillary Clinton do the dog bark?
Every time she opens her mouth.
Oh, just a minute. Ba-boom. But seriously, there is something out there. Now, the one we use for the Tech Night Owl Live is Howard Dean. Remember Howard Dean went, ah!
Well, he went, yee-haw!
Right. Well, Howard Dean did that, and that was it. His presidential campaign was toast. Right. Donald Trump does worse things.
Yes. We won't even go there.
He's in an audience and say, oh, there's a Jew over there. Hi, Jew. Oh, there's a black American over there. I mean, all right.
Well, let's not get too far into the political discussion here, but I will say I made a fake movie trailer called the Hurricane Hillary Express, and I morphed Hillary's very distinctive cackle into the cackle of the Wicked Witch of the East from The Wizard of Oz. And I'll tell you that it just morphs perfectly, and it's actually quite frightening.
Let's do this on After the Paracast this week. Let's play the audio of that.
I could probably figure out a way to do it, or you could just go to my YouTube channel and dial it up.
You see, my wife does that. My wife does a really good imitation of the Wicked Witch's laugh. And her laugh is very, very soft and girlish, but she does his imitation, and then she imitates Clinton's laugh.
Okay. Well.
All right. So I don't know. She might be able to duplicate it for us.
No. Well, I could probably find that section of audio and pull it out.
Well, that would be good. I think we could really have fun there. I mean, not that any of this makes any sense to anybody, but I think what's happened this year, and this is not about any particular political candidate, although maybe it is, and that is the TV networks have revealed their true colors. They are profit-making businesses. It's not liberal media. It's not conservative media. It is corporate media. They are here to make a profit. They don't care one whit about the news unless they get eyeballs on their websites, clicks on their ads, and ratings. If it's none of the above, they'll change their story.
No. Well, I mean, it's the American way.
The American way, indeed. That's right. I don't know. We've got some really, really terrific guests coming up on the show. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be hearing from Robert Damon Schneck. Now, that's a perfect author's name, by the way. Some people have names that are perfect for writing books, and he's got one of them. He has a book called The Bye-Bye Man and Other Strange but True Tales. And it's nice to have a place with ghost stories. Nice to have a ghost story episode. So we'll have that. We'll have a lot of fun with him. And then we've got Joseph Farrell returning for kind of a breakaway civilization roundtable. And since we're doing that, we've asked Walter Bosley to return to be one of the panelists. I think we're going to have a great time. So that's in the next 2 weeks.
Did you notice that the producer, Jim Marrs, PR person, contacted us requesting a slot for Jim to be on the show? He was one of the few speakers at Contact in the Desert that I would have gone and seen if I had paid my $270 or however much it was. Danny Sheehan was there, also I think eminently listenable. Of course, the always irrepressible Richard Dolan. There were a number of people that were there that I really felt sort of lifted it above its prior years speaker lineups. So it'd be neat to have Jim Marrs on. He's not been on the show since I've been a co-host. I'm not even sure was he on in the early years, Gene?
He was on with, I think, Paul Kimball. I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah, it'd be great to have him back. He's Jim's just a really, really top-notch researcher and pretty level-headed, I think, even though some of his work is pretty out there.
It's March 7th, 2010, and this was one of our early co-hosts who no longer does it, and that's Frank Warren. So if you want to hear the first episode we did with Jim Marrs, it's March 7th, 2010, Frank Warren and Jim Marrs. And we call Jim Marrs the czar of conspiracy theorists.
Right. Yeah. Plus, we should do a listener roundtable, too. I think we're about at that point in the year where we should touch bases with our very, very up to speed and in many cases brilliant listeners. Go ahead and throw it out there and sort of let the chips fall where they may.
Or let the may fall where they chip.
Yeah, well, that too.
All right, we'll let the may fall where they chip. Today, Colonel John B. Alexander, the non-lethal guy. All right, he hasn't been on for a couple of years, and I thought it was high time we get him back on. Now, this guy's got a great life, by the way. You know, he's out there, he swims in the morning, then he'll come and do the show, and I don't know what he'll do in the afternoon, maybe sit back and have a cocktail. What a life. We'll have to ask him about what he does and how he does it, because I would like to know, and Chris would like to know. You know, he's got 26 jobs right now, grumpy Chris. I'd be grumpy, too, if I was like that. In any case, John B. Alexander with Gene and Chris, you're in
The Paracast.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
DarkCityDefense.com was born in Black Mountain, at the foot of the Black Mountain Range in North Carolina. From the Dark City, as it's affectionately been named, we built an online firearms pro store that boasts a vast range of firearms, optics, and outdoor supplies. With aggressively low everyday pricing and a free gift pack with every firearms purchase, DarkCityDefense.com is committed to Tier 1 customer service and overcoming darkness by turning on the light of liberty. Find the light in our logo and find out more at DarkCityDefense.com.
The following is an incredible, life-changing free offer for anyone with hearing problems who wants to start hearing everything more clearly again. We're now offering free in-home trials of a revolutionary hearing breakthrough called Listen Clear to anyone who calls this special toll-free number now. 1-800-957-9364. Call in the next 10 minutes and you'll also qualify for free shipping and free batteries for life. Listen Clear is precisely designed by top audio engineers. It adjusts to let you find the perfect way to hear everything, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And Listen Clear is so invisible, people may not even know you're wearing it. And it's so lightweight, you may even forget you're wearing it too. Don't miss this special life-changing opportunity to hear everything more clearly again for free, with a 100% free in-home trial, free shipping, and even free batteries for life. For free information, call now. 1-800-957-9364. That's 1-800-957-9364. 1-800-957-9364.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
We're joined by Colonel John B. Alexander this week on the Paracast. It's a couple of years since he appeared with us. And just before he came on, he was telling me that he was having kind of a midday breakfast, is it? Is that what you were just eating?
No, it's lunch, but it's just the first time that I eat.
So you no longer eat breakfast. I have to have breakfast.
Oh, I meet with we have a Special Forces dinosaurs that get together every Wednesday morning, which this is, and like I said, I just don't start eating until about noon. Being an owl, I much prefer later than these early risers.
It's funny. I've been calling myself the Tech Night Owl for, 15 years now. And the thing is here is that these days I go to sleep by about 10 o'clock or so, and I'm up about 6. So I don't know what kind of night owl I am anymore.
No, midnight's early for me.
Well, welcome back to the show, John. It's been a long time. Good to hear your voice.
Hi, Chris.
How's Victoria doing?
Oh, very well. Very well.
Yeah, you guys still traveling up a storm like you were last year?
A fair amount. Recently back from Brazil. Some of the stuff that happened there, but
yeah, I'm very interested to hear. Yeah, it's amazing. It's hard to keep up with you sometimes. So you're still doing your journeys, checking out shamanic traditions and healing modalities and that things of that ilk.
The next scheduled one is diving with great white sharks. A little different. And I think, depending on when the last time was that we talked,
you had just swam with the gray whales, I believe.
Okay. I was going to say 2 years ago we were with humpback whales in Tonga.
Well, as someone that's had to deal with a lot of politicians in your long and storied career, you've had a lot of practice swimming with sharks. So I'm not too alarmed by that. You're not going down to South Africa, are you? Where they leap out of the water and grab seals and stuff?
No, this is Isle de Guadalupe, which is a couple of 100 miles off Mexico.
Oh, okay. Well, that's warmer climes.
You'll see that island quite a bit.
So I hope they're going to give you a cage, or you're just going to scare them off with your.
This is a cage. We actually were scheduled a year ago, and Hurricane Patrick came through and disrupted things. Even though it went in further south, the waters were, I guess, too choppy. They said you got to go a couple of 100 miles once you've checked in Mexico itself. So it got delayed.
Well, I don't think I need to wish you luck because you wouldn't do it if you thought you needed some. So, I have fun.
Another adventure.
Boy, I'll say you should give workshops so other people can figure out how to do the amount of traveling to interesting places and meet intriguing people like you do.
So, where do we want to go today?
Well, that's a good question. We've got quite a bit that we can talk about. Anything on your mind lately that's stuff that you've been researching or working on? We'd love to catch up with your process a little bit and talk, some about your travels.
Given the show, did have an interesting incident last November. Had my second UFO sighting. And
do tell.
What was significant about that was I was in North Carolina visiting an individual who had a story that if I had just listened to it, we would have, chucked it off and just say this is just too impossible, which includes abduction and missing time, interaction with some kind of creepy crawlers and some robotic things and UFOs sitting there and continuing events. So Victoria and I went down last November, and the individual took us to the site where this had taken place. And the area is sort of what I call transitional. It's quasi-rural, but, close to metropolitan area and building up. So I went down and explained where everything had occurred. It was down near a river and really muddy and hard to get to. So we came back up early evening, just getting dark, and we're standing by the car just chit-chatting about, background material, and all of a sudden he says, "Oh, I feel they're here." and within 15 seconds, something just popped into sight above us and went zipping off to the south. So the sighting itself wasn't that, dramatic, but it's the temporal relationship where the individual said, I feel they're here, and sure enough, it appears.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Now, I have talked with a number of people over the years that claim to have some sort of ability, such as you describe, of picking up some sort of energy field, or I'm not exactly sure, what people are picking up. Ray Stanford comes to mind. He's someone that claims that he can tell when things are around. What is this, a consciousness thing? Is it a physiological thing, picking up on possibly changes in magnetic field or gravitational fields? What do you think? Well, what's behind that?
Well, I have a slide that I use in all of my presentations on phenomena and some others, and in it depicts, of course, UFOs and near-death experience, after death, fire walking, psychokinesis, metal bending, even Sasquatch and whatnot. And the words that go with that is, I think all of these are interrelated somehow. No, I can't be exactly sure how, but I believe that consciousness is a piece of that. One of the problems that we have, and often on shows like this, where they try to stovepipe and they say, okay, we're going to talk about UFOs or poltergeists or psychokinesis or whatnot, and look at them, in isolation. And I argue that's a mistake.
I couldn't agree more. I've been an advocate for some sort of unified field theory work for quite a while. My Trickster book was an attempt to begin that process, because I found that oftentimes there's a tricksterish element that seems to, be consistent almost throughout the literature. There's always some inexplicable thing that tends to be held back oftentimes by the witness, because for fear that it would call the rest of the experience or account into question. I find that oftentimes some of the more compelling elements of a particular series of events or event is the inexplicable nature of an element of that. Do you think that there's also a physical, besides consciousness, do you think that there's a way for the human body to be tuned to changes in environmental?
Yeah, obviously that happens, that there is a physiological response of some kind.
We have John Alexander with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, the Mineral Doctor. You've heard me talk about 90 for Life for years. 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 2 fatty acids. You may not know this, that I've actually designed Arthur decks for animals. That's right. Your pets need 90 for Life, too. Get this essential pet product by calling 877-279-9422. That's 877-279-9422. Again, 877-279-9422.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug-out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of slingbow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
This is a healthcare alert from the Pain Relief Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You don't have to suffer any longer. You can immediately qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you by calling our 24/7 Pain Relief Hotline at 866-389-0620. Delivery is free and all paperwork is handled for you. If you are on Medicare and have knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain, don't wait. You can qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost by calling our 24/7 pain hotline now at 866-389-0620. Our representatives are standing by 24/7 to take your call and rush you your pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and all paperwork is handled for you. Just call 866-389-0620. That's 866-389-0620. Again, 866-389-0620.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Hi, this is Ron Paul. I'm a former 22-year congressman and Republican presidential candidate. I'm here to tell you about something that just might save your lives. You never know when there will be another Katrina, an economic collapse, or a serious drought. We should all have a little food storage that will carry us through tough times. I'm going to tell you about a great way to do that. A U.S. company named Harvest Right has a kitchen appliance that can help you be prepared. It's a home freeze dryer. With the product, you can preserve the foods your family loves. And the best part is the food will last 25 years and still taste great. I've tried it and it's amazing. With a home freeze dryer from Harvest Right, you can literally freeze dry anything you eat, even things like ice cream. To learn more, call Harvest Right today at 800-594-4635 or go to harvestright.com. That's 800-594-4635 or harvestright.com.
This is Leslie Kane, and I'm with the Coalition for Freedom of Information, and you are listening to the Paracast.
So as the discussion started with Colonel John Alexander talking about the possibilities here of a unified field theory accounting for all the ins and outs of a paranormal experience. It's not just a ghost. It's not just a UFO. Chris asked a question of Colonel Alexander. Would you continue your response, please?
Well, I think one of the things that he asked about or mentioned is really quite important and almost ubiquitous, and that is the trickster component. And one of the problems you have is none of these things ever always fit. No matter what you do when you're studying phenomena, usually you start down a path, and all of a sudden you see a significant shift. If you take UFOs, look at how many times, the whole context has changed from old airships to whether they're having more abductions, the kinds of things that are seen, etc. But the trickster tends to show up. I might mention what's colloquially known as Skinwalker Ranch. As you know, I worked for Bob and had spent time up there. And there were very, very strange things that happened, no doubt about it. And we had, the ranch instrumented, and it was kind of amazing how many things would happen, like, just off camera. And I've always said that there seems to be some kind of higher consciousness at play that certainly has a sense of humor. And you start studying something, and then it's like whatever that is, the controlling force goes, you like that? Try this. And throws, something from left field at you.
Well, the classic example would be the one camera filming the other camera and having the one camera not pick up how the wires were jerked out of the camera in view. I mean, that to me is one of the classics of the literature, especially with the kind of talent that was up there. In real time observing this, it's just inconceivable to me that a scientist wouldn't walk away from that convinced that there was something really almost. I don't know. The trickster word is kind of overused, and I think is a little bit misunderstood by most people out there. I know you're well aware of it. We're being toyed with in one sense of the word. It's almost like a cat and mouse game. It's like how much can it do before you just throw your hands up and just say, that's it. I've had enough.
I said that a long time ago, folks. I really did. I mean, you look at this year's election in the U.S. and you know the trickster is working overtime.
I assume we're not doing a political show. Although we can, if you wish.
We've been spanked here in recent weeks for diving into the political realm. A lot of our listeners, that's a lot. They tune into our show to get away from all that. So we do try to dole it out in bite-sized increments. Let's put it that way.
I would ask then if you saw my last publication in the Huffington Post called "The Day Democracy Died."
Oh boy.
Well, okay, you raised the issue. Please tell me more.
Let's go there, definitely.
Okay, we're going to get spanked here, so let me put on my Kevlar suit. Okay, this is the Kevlar suit that has all those bat utilities. Go ahead.
No, you don't really have to. I say the day democracy died, and it had been on life support before, but was 21 January 2010. That's the day that Citizens United came down and just changed everything. Where, as Romney famously said, corporations are people. We have just ridiculous amounts of money being put in, and that it goes to, without knowing where it comes from, the lack of transparency with the PACs and super PACs where the donors don't have to be named. One of the things I point to in the article, I said, Tip O'Neill once said, all politics is local. That is no longer true. That may be where you go to vote, but you see now external funds come in. For instance, remember the governor of Wisconsin was supposed to be recalled, and in my view should have been, even though it was my home state at one point.
Well, they did some funky stuff at the ballot box there, I understand.
Well, no, the biggest thing there was the amount of money. There was, I think it's about $30 million came in from outside funds, people outside the state to influence that election.
Well, you know what? There's something else, too, just to show you what's admitted. So we have that governor who ran for president for about an hour, had plenty of money from the Koch brothers,
right,
and then was shellacked by Trump and the others. Okay. Now, Governor Walker was fooled one time by a prankster where someone calls up pretending to be David Koch of the Koch brothers, thanking him for everything, and he goes along with the gag. Oh, it's so great to hear from you and everything. Now, I would think with any normal political campaign, that should have sunk him. This proves he is in the hip pocket of a billionaire.
Oh, yeah.
No, he won anyway.
Well, the Koch brothers, I'd recommend here a book called Dark Money, because they put together a rather massive organization. They had claimed prior to nomination of Trump that they were going to put in close to $1 billion into the national election this time around. It now looks like they're going to disperse that, and rather than working on the national election, use the money to influence local areas where they think Republican candidates may be in trouble or can be boosted over the hump and gain new seats. But the problem is, as they put this together, and while they happen to be very visible, there are others behind them putting in lots and lots of money. You have no idea who they are or what they're sponsoring.
Right, and on the other side of the coin, you have George Soros, who's been doing similar things for quite some time, and not only in this country, but in other countries as well. Yeah,
that is not an equal comparison by any stretch of the imagination. There have been a few progressive or liberal sponsors out there. But when you start comparing the amounts of money, I mean, it is more than an order of magnitude out of balance.
I think a good term would be pocket depth.
Well, the problem is this lack of transparency.
Right. Well, Citizens United, and I absolutely agree. When I, like many people, it sort of caught me unawares. I didn't think that it was possible for a Supreme Court decision to come down that would allow for a complete, auctioning off of our electoral process, and it just it goes to show that the corporate moneyed interests in this system are now absolutely in charge. There's no two ways about it, and I've seen more and more people attempting to adopt the idea that all politicians should wear the logos of the PACs and corporations that are funding them on their clothing, so that at a glance the average person can see who they're beholden to. And I think things would change a little bit. It would definitely be colorful.
Now, it's interesting here about all this. From what I read, a politician has to spend 1/3 to 1/2 his time seeking donations to fund the next campaign.
I think it's more than that. Well, in the 60 Minutes piece, they were talking to representatives from both parties, and said there are call rooms because they can't call from their office, but they're expected to spend 30 to 40 hours per week asking for donations. Part of it for them is that they also have to ask for money for the party. And this is where I say the amounts of money are just ridiculous.
Before the commercials become ridiculous, we need them. With Colonel John Alexander and Gene and Chris, you're in the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Conspiracy Journal is your #1 source for the hidden world of the weird and strange. We bring you thought-provoking and controversial material for free-thinking individuals who are seeking what is really going on in our world today. Some of this material may adversely affect you. Other pieces are meant to enlighten. Either way, be prepared to be intrigued by such things as the reality of UFOs, ghosts, strange creatures from time and space, hidden conspiracies, time travel, Nikola Tesla, suppressed technology, and a whole lot more. You can find out more by visiting our website at conspiracyjournal.com. There you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter sent directly to your email address. Find out what they don't want you to know.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body, Brain, and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Vaping enthusiasts, head to vaporpalace.com. Choose from over 150 flavors and a selection of exclusive private stock vapor liquid you won't find anywhere else. New flavors are added every month, and our customer service is unbeatable. Vaporpalace.com offers 15% off all vapor liquid on Fridays and get 10% off every order with coupon code VAPOR10 at checkout. Combine the codes on Fridays for 25% off. The ultimate destination for the vaping enthusiast. Vaporpalace.com.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Hi, this is James Fox from Chasing UFOs. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Now, before your listeners say, oh, you're liberal, you're conservative, whatever you are, and not to talk politics, anytime you get involved in a conspiracy involving a political figure or an agency of government, it's political. Air Force secrecy about UFOs, the Kennedy assassination, 9/11 conspiracies, governments enter it. And we're talking here, Colonel Alexander, about the influence of big business. And I'm getting the impression that more and more politicians are getting sick of this because, you know, a lot of them, whatever party, this is not Democrat or Republican, folks, go in there not to make money, but they really believe in helping, making a difference. And they get in, they realize that their number one task is not serving their constituents or even local businesses.
It's getting reelected.
That's right. And to get reelected, they have to spend most of their time, or a very heavy portion of their time, soliciting money. So if they have to put 30, 40 hours a week doing that, what do they do next? Well, I suppose what they have to do then is to work 60 or 80 hours a week to actually get something done.
Yeah, but they spend most of their time on vacation.
That's probably not a fair comment. You know, I had known Al Gore. This was back in antiquity, and then married Tipper. And she said, you know, we have three staffs. You have one staff that's the staff for the office. You have one staff that's for the constituency back, you know, in your home district, and a third staff that is, you know, running for re-election. And he says, when you get done dealing with all that, there is no time left.
Yeah.
So when you go home, I mean, there's no, you're home, theoretically, you're back dealing with your constituents, and most of them are. But, yeah, maybe the problem you have eliminated, though, is a catch-22. You know, once you get on the merry-go-round, how do you get off? Because it's not stopping.
No, especially if you're a congressperson, because of the 2-year term. I mean, it's just a treadmill. I've been hearing this comment more and more lately that the easiest way or the quickest way to become a millionaire in this country is to be elected to Congress.
You just gave me an idea here. Seriously, I was working at a radio station, I think 1974. This was a radio station in the Philadelphia suburbs, and a local political official comes over to me. And he says, would you like to run for Congress? A guy, who hasn't reached 30. I'm in my 20s, folks. I'm not as old as I look. I'm in my 20s, and I'm being asked to run for Congress. And I said, I can't do that because I'd be out of a job. Because I can't run for Congress and be on the radio, and this is my paycheck. I'm just a regular guy making a living. And they realized that. But on the other hand, I possibly gave away a large income there. If I had made that decision and got myself elected, hey, I'd be dealing with all that corporate money. I'd be a millionaire now. But I'm glad I didn't.
After you leave office, you get back into consulting and lobbying.
Right. Well, let's kind of dovetail our political discussion into a comment that Hillary made that kind of took off in the media. She was asked, I think, in New Hampshire about the UFO connection with John Podesta and her apparent interest with the Rockefeller Initiative. I think spurred the question on. And she made some comment, yes, we're going to look into Area 54 in New Mexico. Did you catch that?
No, I've seen a lot of articles where she has talked positively about the UFO thing.
Before we go on, John, I maintain it's not ignorance. She just misspoke. But let's go on.
No, my point, because as you know, in my book on UFOs, I talked about political, holding congressional hearings. And the point was that UFOs are a political albatross. Now, I don't know if it's changed or not, and, the problem is that the opponents, you've seen a little of this, not as much as I would have expected. I think it'll pop up, but, the context is going to be, here's somebody who wants to support UFOs, she must be crazy.
Right. Well, look what happened to Dennis Kucinich.
Oh, exactly. I use that example in the book. Yeah. And he, they brought him up, and the question that he asked was just, what if, a very benign, reasonable question, and the press eviscerated him for it.
Well, Reagan got away with it.
Not really. You did not hear him talking about it. This came out in books after it, but you did not hear him as an advocate.
Well, he did sort of posit that comment about, if we were threatened by an alien force from the outside, would that bring everyone together?
That's still far different from advocating for. To give an example, my friend Claiborne Pell, who was one of the longest-serving senators from Rhode Island, and he attended a MUFON meeting once because it happened to be in the Washington area, and got skewered for that. And the Washington Post even held that against him in his obituary.
Oh, geez.
This stuff literally follows you to the grave.
Wow, that's a third-rail toxic subject, I guess, in many people's minds. Hopefully this is changing. I think the younger generation are more open-minded and less intolerant of the subject, I think.
Depends on what the issue really is. Now, if the question is, do people believe in UFOs, the answer is overwhelmingly yes. But in the political context, it has changed. It has nothing to do with UFOs. It has to do with, mental stability and credibility.
Well, I always like John Judge's interpretation of the UFO acronym as unidentified fascist observatories. I always thought that was kind of cute. So you don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that even if Hillary, let's say, hypothetically does get into office, it'll just be the same story all over again.
Yeah, I think pretty much. I have not talked to Podesta, and I would really like to do that to see what he thinks is out there.
I think he takes it very seriously because he wrote the introduction to Leslie Kean's UFO book, and he's the one who apparently. He put up a tweet saying that one of the things he regrets from the time he worked with the Obama administration is they made no progress in that.
Right. that doesn't mean that there is progress to be made.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to know if he knows something the rest of us don't.
Which is pretty unlikely. That would be my guess.
Well, remember when President Bill Clinton was in office, he did ask the question.
Right.
And
what was the comment? He said, "I'm going to have Webb Hubble find out two things: one, who killed Kennedy, and are UFOs real, or what are UFOs, or what do we know?" I forget the actual language.
UFOs, right?
And that was about the last we heard of that.
Correct.
Isn't it always? This is so interesting. It gets back to the promises made by politicians. But I'm thinking here, why would any self-respecting politician want to say anything like this? Because unless there's a big UFO lobby, of course, I don't think there is.
There's not.
So
it's called Stephen Bassett.
The problem is going to be, and for your listeners as well, it's a very small group, and they tend to talk to each other. And in talking to each other, they get the impression that they're much bigger than they really are. I've got, again, one of my slides that I use in there, and I know the IUFOC likes to talk about being, the biggest UFO conference, and they get a little over 1,000 people to attend that. Actually, Farrakhan got a lot more in the Black Muslim conference, and specifically on UFOs. But if I can compare any UFO conference to Comic-Con, you have multiples of those, and you get into hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
That gives you kind of, I think, a relative level of interest.
Well, this is the problem we've all had. Let me remind you that check out our premium package and the After the Paracast podcast we'd like you to hear. Go to plus.theparacast.com. That's plus.theparacast.com. The subscription rate is really, really modest, by the way. Monthly, annual, 5 years, lifetime. Check it out, plus.theparacast.com. We'll check out more stuff with Colonel John Alexander on the other side. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors, classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
There is an affordable alternative to the high cost of healthcare that offers freedom from insurance while providing compliance with the Obamacare mandate. Imagine having access to quality, affordable healthcare that allows you the freedom to choose your doctor and hospital. Members can share up to 100% of necessary medical expenses, including alternative treatments. Find out how you and your family can contain healthcare costs without giving up your freedom. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Now, John, before we go on, I wanted to ask you something which I had noticed and probably noticed on your previous appearances but didn't register. And that is, in your last book about UFOs, there was a contribution there by none other than Tom Clancy.
Right.
Now, I'll just tell you, I had several encounters with Tom Clancy in the 90s. And to show you how stupid I was, I didn't realize this is a best-selling multimillionaire author and that he wrote the novel Hunt for Red October and all that, and I had seen the movie. I didn't think that. I thought he was a guy writing me on AOL for help to set up a CD-ROM to work on his Mac. And so I helped him. And then we talked a little bit. I met him up at one of these computer expos, Macworld. And the thing I remember the last time I saw Tom Clancy, he remarked how, with regard to the actors playing Jack Ryan in the movies, he thought Harrison Ford was a stupid guy. Just to mention that. So what does Tom Clancy have to do with UFOs?
They're literally, well, we spent a lot of time talking about this back and forth. Now, the first iteration that took place in his apartment in the Baltimore Bay area was, Alexander, if you weren't from Los Alamos, I'd throw your ass out of here. Later it was, would you tell me again some of that stuff? And he says, well, I'm hearing this from other people now, and not ones that you would commonly know about. There actually was a book in the mill called A Hole in the Sky, which never got out. I've talked to Alex about trying to get it out. He said the publishers did not want to pursue it because they wanted him to stay within genre, but it did have a UFO ET component to him. And the story, actually on the thing that he wrote, was surprising to me because he had done a foreword to Future War, which I had written before. It was on non-lethal weapons. So I did not expect, long commentary. I was looking for a blurb, good stuff, read the book. And instead, he came back with, what is in the book, which was much more in detail, obviously. And, of course, because I already had a forward coming from Jacques Vallee, but, when you get that from Tom Clancy, you can't not use it. The same was true with Burt Rutan, who came in kind of unexpectedly with several pages, including his own sighting.
So at the end, and Clancy died several years ago.
Right.
All his riches couldn't make him live longer. He was, in his late 60s, as a matter of fact?
No, early 60s.
Early 60s, that was worse.
Yeah, I was there for his 60th birthday party, which was on the USS New Jersey, parked across from Philadelphia, and that was like a couple of years before.
He was born in 1947. He died in 2013. That makes him 66.
Okay.
He lied about his age. That's the thing. He was lying to you. So you have to get him up on the Ouija board and say, Tom, you weren't telling the truth.
I'm just maybe short on the time, but I was definitely there. Like I say, it was the most amazing birthday party I've ever been to.
Well, he was a character, I can tell you that. And I got that impression also that he was very impressed with himself.
Oh, yes. Actually, we were at dinner. It was a conference that I was chairing, and he was there, and we were sitting at the head table, of course, and one of his comments was, I am smart. I am really smart.
Okay, just to show you that dead authors never disappear. They are right now doing development of a TV series entitled Jack Ryan.
Yep. In fact, if you know, Op Center is a whole series.
Oh, yeah.
And I had read one. Actually, I was on a flight back to Washington, went down and talked to him because I said, boy, the tone doesn't sound right. And so I asked him, I said, well, what's your input, thinking that I knew that there was a co-author, somebody who'd written it. Maybe they had discussed the plot or something like that. And he goes, hell, I don't even read them.
Wow. Well, the Net Force books, too, are a spinoff from that have his name.
There are more books coming out today that are under, Tom Clancy as an institution.
Right. Not to mention video games and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a franchise, I think, would be the term.
He's doing what Donald Trump does, which is to attach his name to projects.
They get to the point where they don't even own their own name. It is literally an organization owned by somebody else. And I have run into that before. Tom kept them up so he could do things like write blurbs and whatnot, but there are people who don't.
Well, definitely one of my favorite all-time authors. I think I've read pretty much anything with his name on it. Not bad for a guy that started out, I think, as an insurance salesman and decided to take up writing as a passion. And I mean, what a great writer. I mean, all those early books are just, I've read them multiple times. Just real top-rated author in my book. Tons of fun.
One of the things Tom had told me, because he said his daughter was kind of dinging him one time, like, oh, you got an easy job, all you have to do is write. And his response was, right. He says, it's like you have to do a 10-page essay every day and get an A on every one of them.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, try that at home, folks. Yeah, believe me, as someone who's written, 7, I'm going on 7 books now. I'll tell you, if I was a 10th the writer of Tom Clancy, I would not be writing in the realm of investigations and research into the paranormal. I would be whipping out sci-fi or just doing, kind of a Clancy-esque or maybe even, a Ludlum or, you could go down the list of writers that I've loved and admired over the years. Boy, if I had that kind of talent, I would not be stuck in the nonfiction realm by any stretch.
Well, he was stream of consciousness. I called one day, I think with Debt of Honor, but what happened was I called and Alex answered, said, hey, what's going on? And finally got to Tom, and he says, well, I'm 600 pages into the book. We've just gone to war with Japan, and I haven't the foggiest idea how to get out of this.
I love it. Yeah, executive decision painted him into a corner.
Yeah, well, obviously he did, but the point was writing a stream of consciousness as opposed to having a complete outline of how you're going to get from point A to
point B, right. Yeah, that's what makes nonfiction, I guess, in many ways it's much more writer-friendly because you're almost forced to maintain a pretty rigid organizational structure, and you're presenting facts and research ideally. And when you do present opinions, it's based on the facts. So it's a little bit more cut and dried.
Let me tell you here, I used to write these computer instruction books, not like Mac for Dummies or something. That franchise was taken already, but another one of those books, and they have a very regimented structure. So you've got like a basic text, and this is a hint, this is a tip, this is a step-by-step, and there are 4 or 5 elements that have to recur in each chapter. So you're constrained by a very rigid format, like you're a machine. You're a writing machine. And I did that for probably 30 books, and you make a decent living. It's nothing spectacular. A couple of the books earned out, and I did really well. But at the end of the day, I woke up one day, and I sat down before the keyboard ready to start another assignment, and my agent was working on it. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I cannot become a machine, a book writing machine. It's not the same thing as a person like Nick Redfern who writes a lot of books, because each one is different. Each one has different kinds of structure, and it's not nearly as rigid. Yeah. But this is impossible. Whereas I understand what Tom Clancy was coming from, because my son and I have written fiction. So I understand that we can have an outline or even a very basic structure, and then we let the mind flow, and we kind of live in that universe. And what comes out is what makes the book, for better or worse. For better or worse. Right. Colonel John Alexander with Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada. Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, the Mineral Doctor. You've heard me talk about 90 for life for years. 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 2 fatty acids. You may not know this, that I've actually designed Arthrodex for animals. That's right. Your pets need 90 for life, too. Get this essential pet product by calling 877-279-9422. That's 877-279-9422. Again, 877-279-9422. Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, the Mineral Doctor. You've heard me talk about 90 for life for years. 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 2 fatty acids. You may not know this, that I've actually designed Arthrodex for animals. That's right. Your pets need 90 for life, too. Get this essential pet product by calling 877-279-9422. That's 877-279-9422. Again, 877-279-9422.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Before we go on with John Alexander, let me talk about this a bit more. And that is the second radio show that Chris and I do, and sometimes we have special guests. It's called After the Paracast. It's an exclusive feature of the Paracast Plus. And to know more, go to plus.theparacast.com. You'll get a commercial-free version of this show with higher quality audio. You'll get After the Paracast, show transcripts. Those will take a while to do, but we've got a few already. Special classic episodes coming, videos, and other goodies. the Paracast Plus, low subscription rates, our price, cheap. It's like buying a big Starbucks every month. Once. You can afford to give up a Starbucks and send the money. Plus.theparacast.com. Colonel John Alexander, we were talking here about Tom Clancy and books, but I wanted to get back to Clancy here. Obviously, he had ties and sources in the military.
I remember going down to the house one day and checking out and saying, oh, the day before Colin Powell had been there.
Wow. Well, he even got in trouble when Hunt for Red October came out because his fictitious Caterpillar drive actually turned out to be a classified secret that he just kind of stumbled on it just creatively.
Well, no, that was not stumbling. That was one of the things that got me interested in Tom to begin with, was that I had read that, and there were certain descriptions in there of places, and I'm going like, he's not guessing. This is exactly, somebody has definitely been to the place that he's describing, because he's talking about the floor and that sort of thing, and everything was just exactly right. And you go, that's not a guess.
Well, isn't that how he got out of some kind of hot water by saying, well, it was just, I just kind of came up with that, and then I think, didn't they make him a consultant to the Navy or something after that, or he got sort of.
He was tied in, as I said, at very, very high levels, and a lot of people whispering. By the way, one of his cute quotes when we were talking about UFOs, and I think we were at dinner one night, and it came up, and he says, "Well, the government doesn't have anything." And he said, well, how do you know? He says, somebody would have told me.
Okay.
Now, that was, frankly, before we had kind of turned him around and said, hey, maybe get him to admit maybe there was something to it.
No.
I wanted to bring that up there because that is kind of anticipating the question I was going to ask, which is, you talked about it with him about UFOs. And obviously, they're not telling Tom Clancy. And if they're not telling Tom Clancy, maybe they're not telling anyone, or are they classified so high in the pecking order that even a Tom Clancy couldn't mine his military sources to get that information?
Well, remember, he was not interested in the topic. When we told you, when we first started discussing it, he threatened to throw me out of the room, but and that changed over time. So is it that high? I don't know. I mean, you're hearing some new information coming out now. To me, and it's not just Tom, but certainly he was tied in at sources. I mean, the kinds of information he was being fed is, well, they're after Hillary now and Petraeus for putting out certain information, and I think the kinds of things he had were certainly far more sensitive than that and seemed to be getting it accurately.
Well, and let's not forget his nonfiction books, too, which I do recommend for anybody with an interest in military tech, and very well written. Very good sourcing in his nonfiction books, where he looks at how particular military operations are done, types of equipment, that sort of thing. The types of things that he alludes to in passing in his novels, he goes in depth in his nonfiction books, which don't get the notoriety, of course, that the fiction books do. But very well done for anybody with an interest in the.
He did a series with different senior generals.
Right.
There's one called Shadow Warriors, and I'm the one who introduced him to Carl Steiner, who had been the commander-in-chief of Special Operations Command. He's also the guy who led the invasion of Panama, and was the one who had pulled the gun on the Italians when they were trying to get back the hijackers of the Achille Lauro. Kind of legendary. So, I mean, the people that he wrote with on that are just really top-notch.
Okay, now let me ask you something here. Get back to our subject. Although Tom Clancy was certainly a fascinating gentleman.
Which subject is that?
I have no idea. But now let's get to this here. There are people who believe that the government is hiding secrets about UFOs. But the most that we hear is about people sending Freedom of Information Act requests. Sometimes they're granted, sometimes they get the information and a lot of material is redacted for security reasons. We understand that. But is there any way that you've been able to determine what the government really knows? Do they know anything beyond the rest of us except for a few details about possibly secret aircraft having a sighting?
Well, I think the problem is one that's not addressed there, and that is, what do you mean, the government? As I point out, it's a big place. There's thousands, or actually millions of people, and that what you find, or my experience is, that there is a difference between people who've had their own experience and institutional relationships. Got asked a lot about the remote viewing program. And I'll use that as an example because, A, I don't think there is such a program going on. That does not mean that there aren't people who are interested. I was doing a TV interview that'll be coming out very shortly and talking about this just past Sunday. And you have these people, remember that, let's take UFOs. Well, we have 7 to 10% of the adult population believe they have seen a UFO or something pass for it. And that is true for people who are, in the government as well as in the civilian sector. So the point is, they have had personal experience. They have no doubt about the existence of such things. But that does not translate, when you go back to your day job, to an institutional interest or responsibility.
We're going to do a break now. We're trying to look at the possibilities of what the government might know about our favorite subject, Colonel John B. Alexander, Gene Steinberg, Grumpy Chris O'Brien. You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
You haven't experienced yogurt until you've tried a Mossy, embodying health and flavor in a true whole milk, green-fed dairy beverage. Every sip pays homage to our old world cows and the ancient culturing methods their milk benefits from. With over 30 probiotics, a Mossy's undeniably nutritious, refined, cultured sensation bolsters your health and awakens your passion for dairy. A Mossy's so good, and you need to try it. Contact your Youngevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to GCNteam.com.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
If you have sleep apnea and you're tired of dragging around your big, bulky home CPAP device wherever you travel, what I'm about to tell you may sound too good to be true. MiniCPAP.com now offers a portable device that's as small as a soda can and weighs less than a pound. Even better, you can try Transcend absolutely risk-free for a full 10 days. Call us now, 1-800-940-5473. Transcend is the world's first portable mini CPAP device. It gives you the freedom to sleep in total comfort anywhere you are. For even more freedom, you can add a battery that's as tiny as a deck of cards. Transcend is so small and so light you can fit it in your briefcase or purse to use anywhere you go. It's FAA compliant too, so you can even sleep comfortably while flying. It's true. You can enjoy the freedom to sleep comfortably anywhere, anytime you want. Call minicpap.com now for your 10-day in-home trial. 1-800-940-5473. That's 1-800-940-5473.
My computer is so slow, it's making me crazy.
I used to have that problem.
Did you quit using a computer or did you buy a new one?
No, I called Geeks On Site. They made an appointment to visit my home and showed up the same day.
You mean they didn't ask you to bring your computer to a shop? That's what happened when I called a support company.
Geeks On Site can go to your home or business or even repair your computer online. They have 24/7 emergency service.
If you are having problems with your PC or Mac, call Geeks On Site, 1-800-591-1682. Our friendly certified computer repair experts are available 24/7. Call now for a free diagnosis, 1-800-591-1682. Data recovery, virus removal, and maintenance for all laptops, desktops, printers, and networks. That's Geeks On Site for friendly certified computer repair experts, available 24/7 over the phone or in your home or business. Just call 1-800-591-1682. That's 1-800-591-1682, 1-800-591-1682.
This is Jacques Vallee. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
I made Chris even grumpier that way.
I'm never going to live that one down, am I?
No, I think it's going to... He's going to imitate the way Hillary Clinton barks.
Yeah. I wanted to ask John before we get away from the writing topic if he ever considered going the Jacques Vallee route and writing a fictional book and hiding some knowledge that maybe normally you wouldn't come out with in a nonfiction realm, but as Vallee and Tracy Torme did in Fast Walkers, come out in a fictional setting. Have you ever considered that?
Actually, it leads to something a little bit different. I have dabbled with fiction, never actually published anything. Not so much to cover it up, but just because you have a lot of latitude there. But one of the things I wanted to mention, because we started on this trail before, was that one of the things I found, and if you've dealt with this, I was doing, of course, a special operations one and whatnot, got into the story, and damned if the characters didn't start talking to me. I mean, literally, they come up and, you'd go off into an area that's a little different and be going down that trail, and I had people, swear to God, come back and say, hey, you forgot me, I'm back over here. And these are totally fictional folks.
That sounds a little frightening.
Well, actually, a number of authors that I know of has said that the point is that these...
kind of literary tulpas.
Literally, yeah, that's probably a good description of it.
Yeah, and then you try to kill them off and they won't go away. Hey, I'm coming back as a ghost in your next book. I'm sure. I mean, you're a very good writer, and I think you would have some fun doing that. Just kind of doing a what if book and being a little coy about what is based on possibly insider information and what's based on just pure imagination. Vallee did a very good job with it, and The one thing that I remember coming away after reading the book is that the craft that they were attempting to back engineer turned out to be alive. And it was there was a biological component to it, which I always felt was a wonderful twist.
Fiction does give you a lot of latitude that you don't necessarily get in other genres.
Well, it gets people guessing a little bit too, especially someone with the kind of work history and interests that you've had. I mean, they based characters very loosely, I might add, in Hollywood movies.
Goats.
You get a little grumpy yourself when people say, "Oh, weren't you the Kevin Spacey character in Men Who Stare at Goats?"
Actually, it was more the
Clooney.
Clooney.
The Clooney character.
Yeah. Now, in the book, there's actually a book that it was taken from. There is no doubt who we are.
Right.
Because I entered on page 41, I think it was, and by name, and I was able to identify 16 people that I knew. Interestingly, the ones that I talked to, vast majority said, "We've never met this guy."
No, the guy is John Ronson, I believe, the author of Men Who Stare at Goats.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I love the opening scene of the movie where a character that I immediately thought of as General Stubblebine tries to run through the wall.
Yeah, well, that was Bert. There was no doubt about that.
And I think he actually did try to do that, didn't he, at one point?
Not that I'm aware of. No. Actually, the story, the rational extrapolation is that he is one of these people that's hypersensitive to bee stings. That's obviously not a good thing in the military.
No.
And so what he had done, it was going to Walter Reed, and he had to take shots to build up immunity because so he wouldn't go into anaphylactic shock if stung accidentally. So he said, well, you got to take a shot. So the Goduncan thing was, okay, I am mostly made up of, vacuum. The needle is mostly vacuum or space. And so what I'm going to do is to think about the interpenetration rather than hitting the solid substance. It's, passing in between, so there should be no pain.
Right.
So that was
so that would be mind beside matter?
It was what?
Mind, instead of mind over matter, mind beside matter.
Right.
So I'm not saying anything because I'm letting it sit there and lie there.
Okay. Well, I mean, it was a bad analogy, but I tried.
One of the things I learned long ago is when somebody puts their foot in their mouths, you just let them finish.
See how it tastes?
Yeah. I got, hopefully I'm not wearing big smelly boots.
So if I'm seeing the movie, and I saw it when it first came out, Men Who Stare at Goats, aside from you being possibly one of the characters, what do I take away from it?
It's mostly BS. As I like to say, they wrote, I usually do it with my hands. So let's say he had about 6 inches of truth, and he wrote a yard, and then they made the movie. So...
Well, it's supposed to be a fictional story, sure.
Well, in the book, it is nonfiction. The problem is that, the basic premise, goats did die. However, it had nothing to do with staring at them. This was a product of something called dim mak, which is... the death touch in martial arts. And it also turns out that staring was an interesting component in that there was a school called Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape, or SERI. And it was to train people who were at risk for being captured. And as the Army was setting it up, they brought in Colonel Nick Rowe. And he had been in my area in Vietnam and had been captured. So, who better than somebody with 5 years of experience as a POW to run the program. And one of the things Nick had done is was practicing mental arts. The idea of Rambo that you see all the time that says, the POWs are going to jump up and whoop guards and whatnot is just pure nonsense. They're physically degraded. They're not getting a lot to eat. You usually have injuries and being beaten and terrible diet. So you're just not going to whip them. But he found that he could influence them using his mind. What he would do is concentrate, and not to do big things, but can I get them just to take a few extra steps so I've got time to conceal certain actions and things of that nature. So the premise of using staring really had a very practical application. It's just that no goat died from it, as was depicted in the movie.
I could see some real good applications at a high-stakes poker game in Vegas. It might be interesting to influence people to fold when you're bluffing.
I believe you will find folks who believe that is true and attempt to do it.
Before we even guess what else could be true, let me tell you that we have to do a short break, and then we'll be back with Colonel John Alexander. And by the way, if you're interested in checking out that book he wrote, it's called UFOs, Myths, Conspiracies, and Realities. And it features a foreword from Dr. Jacques Vallee and a commentary from none other than Tom Clancy. So you want to check it out? With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code NIGHTOWL. Use the coupon code NIGHTOWL to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKE soft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKE soft.com.
There's nothing more enticing and intoxicating than the finest meat cooking on an open flame. Freeze-dried meat from newharvest.com is U.S. grown, 100% all-natural with no extra fillers. Just grass-fed beef and free-range chicken guaranteed to stay fresh and delicious. Add New Harvest freeze-dried meats to your current food storage. You'll buy direct from the factory, not a third party, ensuring the best price and the highest quality. See all our products at newharvestfoods.com. That's newharvestfoods.com.
This is Holly Thomas, Group Vice President of Cause Marketing for Macy's. Our company is working together with the March of Dimes through March for Babies to raise money and awareness about the serious problem of premature birth in the U.S. That's why Macy's is committed to raising funds through our employees, customers, family, and friends to improve the health of moms and babies everywhere. Won't you please join us in March for Babies? Start a team today at marchforbabies.org.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug-out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of slingbow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Hi, I'm 54 years of age, and at Christmas time last year, a resident I take care of at work accidentally rolled over my right foot with his motorized scooter. I was backed into a corner, and he put it in reverse and did it again. The bones in my foot weren't actually broken, but damage was done. The remedy was to just let the foot heal on its own, and this was expected to take many weeks. As a caregiver, I do a lot of walking, and I was sort of okay when I was in motion. It's when I stopped to rest that I really felt the pain. The pain was there getting out of bed in the morning, too. So I got on the One World Way a few weeks back, and I just had to write this testimony. No more pain. Nothing. I can only attribute this to the One World Way since I haven't introduced anything else into my life. This product is a true godsend. It gives me energy and did whatever magic this stuff does to heal my poor foot. I will take One World Way for life. Sincerely, Holly.
Call 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldway.com. That's oneworldwhey.com.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
Oh, we've done 2/3 of the show already, Chris. I thought we just started.
Yeah, well, we're having a great time. Those are the shows I like the best, the ones that just fly by because we're just having fun. It's always great to have you on the show, John. You're one of the more fascinating people I've had the pleasure of meeting, and we shared a very interesting experience at the UFO Congress with Stan Romanek running in and being chased by helicopters. I'll never forget that. That was so funny. And I thought Stan got it totally wrong. I think they were watching your back, John. They weren't watching Stan's front. They were just kind of keeping tabs on everybody there for you. Of course, he didn't know there was a Bell helicopter testing facility just down the road, but oh well. So, any SSE news?
Actually, the conference is coming up in the 19th.
Right, and do we have any? You're looking forward to some particular presentations, or?
Well, the unique aspect this time is that the Parapsychological Association and the SSE, Society for Scientific Exploration, are meeting concurrently. So, and by the way, the single presentation, so anybody going will be able to see everything.
Right.
So that should be pretty interesting.
And where's the event being held this year?
Boulder.
In Boulder, okay.
Right next to the University of Colorado. Not at the university per se. It was Millennium, literally down the street. Many of the same people are involved. One of the reasons we use that venue.
Uh-huh. And any notable presentations that you're particularly looking forward to seeing, or?
Oh, there's quite a few. Larry Dossey is going to be there. Of course, Dean Radin is talking. Ian Wickram-Shikra. There's going to be one on Bigfoot. The guy's actually getting the Dinsdale Award and has done a lot of scientific work on Sasquatch. Not sure I agree with his conclusion, but it's still going to be quite interesting.
No. Who is that presenter?
Well, thank you.
Oh, it's you?
No.
No, Jeffrey Meldrum, or
this is not somebody that I've met before. We had done a meeting at Whitefish a long time ago, and they had quite a few of them. This is Jeff Meldrum.
Yeah, Jeffrey Meldrum from University of Idaho, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's he specializes in, I think, primate feet, doesn't he not?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, his bottom line is that there's probably something there, but unidentified great ape. I'm not sure, since we're in one of the things that we did happen within the past year. I was out on a Bigfoot hunt, and we were in Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana.
Not many trees to bang out there, though.
Not what?
They bang on trees on the TV shows. They do the thump.
Had some of that happen. But more interestingly, we were camped on a bayou just north of Shreveport and sleeping in tents. And literally, we had 2 tents, and we're probably 30 meters apart, maybe a little less. But the other tent, there's 2 individuals in there, and they are feet from the swamp. At about 2 o'clock in the morning, they are awakened by something roaring at them immediately outside their tent. So we're talking, a couple of feet away, literally, enough to get them up and out. And yet, when we started looking for physical evidence, absolutely none. And in the area, there's a lot of spiders, of course, and one of the things we found was that the spider webs were still pretty much intact, but can't answer that interaction. There were a number of other things that happened, but that was had some in Oklahoma where you did have the knocking and whatnot. Interesting experience.
Well, you're sure covering the gamut with your activities. I had no idea that you had an interest in Bigfoot to the extent of actually going out and attempting to go out in the field and do your own sort of up close and personal research.
That's kind of across the board. My bottom line is let's go do it.
Yeah,
interesting to talk about it, read about it, and all of that. I had mentioned at the onset that we are just back from Brazil. Mm-hmm. We're down in Rio. Did not see a mosquito, even though we were in the area, the heart of the Zika virus country. Yeah. But the point was that we went to Umbanda ceremony. The reason for being down had to do with non-lethal and award ceremony and whatnot. But where Umbanda is one of the spiritist religions that came across with the slaves. Anyway, Victoria went up and had basically another mystical experience and a consultation, and swears that had one of the Umbanda goddesses giving her messages.
What was she told?
Well, that's personal. But,
okay.
But the point was that very real and very, very dramatic. We did have one. This would be in the program that I mentioned earlier. A couple of years before, we were down in Curitiba, which is in southern Brazil, and went to another Umbanda ceremony. And I might mention that different from Santo Daime, Ate Guarani, and some of these others we've been at, which use some sorts of chemicals, usually DMT is the psychoactive substance. Umbanda does not have any drinking, imbibing at all. There's lots of drumming, and it's very, very intense. But down there, she actually got possessed. And we were at a ceremony, about 300 people, only about 10 foreigners, including maybe 4 gringos, but the foreigners are from all over. And she went out to get a, quote, a healing, and said all of a sudden something jumped into her. And for the next 20 minutes, she's out on the floor whirling around. And this is a group that is used to seeing possession. They're not used to seeing gringos possessed like that.
Wow. So it's kind of reminiscent of like the Orisha dancing in Santeria or some aspects of Voodoo and Candomblé.
Yeah, well, Candomblé tends to run towards the dark side a bit more Lombanda, and we had to get people from Brazil who would take us. There were quite a few who were very nervous about it. Some of them had heard about it, but didn't know if they actually wanted to have firsthand experience. Unfortunately, we had a colonel who was a good friend of mine who often acts as an escort, but his son took us around to these things, and very, very intense.
Yeah, well, Brazil is a very intense country where I think, and most people who have even looked even peripherally into some of the amazing reports and waves of activity that have occurred down there. Of course, the Clara sightings come to mind at the mouth of the Amazon. I've always suspected that there's a lot of very, for lack of a better word, bizarre things that go on down in Brazil that don't really make it out of a local area or region in terms of notoriety, even into the cities, that out in the remote areas of the country, that there's some very, very almost unbelievable, for lack of a better term.
I would frame it a little differently. And this has to get to, I think, a very important issue, and that is worldview. We come from a very materialistic worldview.
Right.
I've been going down to Brazil for about 15 years now, and generally interacting with the intelligentsia. These are senior officers and ministers and things of that nature.
Let's pick up on that, because we got some other things to check out. With John Alexander and Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
If you want to get your website online and you need reliable service, first-class service at the lowest possible price, there's only one place to go. Well, DreamHost has a special promotion with our show where they'll offer you unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click web apps such as WordPress, 24/7 support. You can save over $55. You want to know how? Go to dreamhost.com/radio, dreamhost.com/radio.
Are you worried about how dangerous the world has become? In these days of terrorist attacks, natural disasters, or even a future collapse, you need to be medically prepared to keep your family safe. I'm Joe Alton, MD of store.doomandbloom.net, where you'll find an entire line of uniquely designed medical kits and supplies for when help is not on the way. For everything from individual first aid kits to the ultimate family medical bag, go to store.doomandbloom.net today. That's store.doomandbloom.net. You'll be glad you did.
By now, you know that wireless technology like cell phones do in fact pose dangers to the health and privacy of everyone. Block-It Pocket's wide range of products are unmatched in providing the protection you deserve. No scare tactics, just common sense. BlockItPocket.com offers quality American-made options to alleviate and eliminate these invisible dangers. Learn more at BlockItPocket.com or call 888-315-9618. BlockItPocket.com, enhancing health and privacy.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
With John Alexander and Gene and Chris in the final leg of the journey, you were in the middle of giving us a long answer, Colonel Alexander. Can you continue on that?
I do happen to think that this is kind of an important issue. And this has to do with the difference in worldview. And again, I deal in Brazil with very well-educated people, and most of them with Western education. But the point is that they are totally accepting, or many of them are, I can't paint the brush with everybody, but many of them are totally accepting of this spiritist world, and they accommodate areas that most Westerners would have, real problems with. The point here is that, in my view, it's that our worldview, which is, again, totally materialistic, is one that's inhibiting exploration of these areas. One of the things I say is that kind of see the mission as to being involved in trying to make it permissible for senior scientists to be involved in research into these areas, but to do so without risking their reputation or livelihood. One problem is that, there are many people who are interested, but they also recognize this as a tar baby and said, they keep me informed, but I don't want my name out there as an association. I also point out that these phenomena, including things like, UFOs, one that we talked about earlier, this stuff is, I believe, as complex as cancer or AIDS, and that we definitely need a concentrated effort in the area to understand it, and you're not going to get there, keeping the best and brightest away from it.
Yeah, and this is something that you have been talking about for quite some time, and almost, lone voice in the woods. I mean, I think we're seeing some movement away from that. I think it's infinitesimal. It's very small, but I do see a slight shift towards more open-mindedness, a little less reticence. But, when you're talking the amazing process that to get research grant money, to get tenure, to take those steps in a career, you're very, very cautious. You don't want anything to perhaps tarnish the process or your reputation. And so it's again, a catch-22. How do you figure something out and do good science and research if you're too afraid to even get involved in the first place? And I do see that as a major obstacle, and I applaud you for your courage of coming out and really attempting in many different avenues and in many different ways to sort of reverse that stereotypical process that we're seeing constantly unfolding in academia, especially. And I think it's
the issue for research scientists is that they have to usually attract funding of some sort. Right. And they do not want anything associated with their reputation that might inhibit that.
Right.
There was an example given, again, this program we were filming on Sunday, and it was a mutual friend of ours who was a Nobel laureate in physics who was specifically disinvited from a physics conference because he had spoken positively about psi phenomena.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I mean, it's a good old boys network with a pecking order and very rigid protocols on what you can profess even a passing interest in. I think the system in many ways is broken. If we're going, to move forward, expand our thinking here on this planet, let alone the UFO subject or possible off-planet subjects. This mode of thinking and this just rigidity needs to change. And we need more people like you, John, going out there and telling people, hey, it's okay to, profess an interest in these subjects. You shouldn't be tarred and feathered for it. And to have a Nobel laureate physicist disinvited to a conference just because he professes an interest in psi phenomenon, to me is a perfect illustration of what's wrong, I think, with the static, rigid structure that science and academia finds itself in.
And again, we're talking here specifically about, what was in the Western worldview.
Right.
One of the reasons, and I keep going back to Brazil, but that these people are accepting of alternative systems and a spiritual base to it is, again, the personal experience. Now, that's certainly true to some degree in the U.S. It's just that the materialistic view has been able to dominate and subordinate all others to the exclusion of, fact and things, personal observations.
I don't see that ending anytime soon, but I do have a sense that there is movement. I think as younger folks come up, these subjects are becoming more mainstream. It's got to create some sort of slack in the rigidity at some point, one would hope, but it may not be in the three of our lifetime. But
Planck famously said, that science advances one funeral at a time.
Yeah. That's unfortunately very true. And I think a lot of it is the mindset. We've discussed this on a number of occasions on the show that science is becoming so ivory tower, and it's almost creating an aura of religious belief around itself. That once you get into doctrinaire, systems and protocols and rigidity, it's very difficult to break through that. And I think one of the reasons why you're seeing an upwelling of interest in subjects that are taboo in the scientific community is because science has removed itself so far from the average person. It has become so stovepiped and specialized that people they don't have a snowball's chance in hell of really understanding, advanced science. And I think you're seeing a backlash against that, which is creating more separation between the scientific and the academic establishments and the average person. We need more bridge builders. We need more people like a Michio Kaku or a Dean Radin or yourself. I mean, there's people out there that are actually attempting to bridge the gap, but it's at tremendous peril to their careers.
Well, I think there's another issue, too, that has emerged in the last couple of decades, and that's the politicalization of science.
Yeah.
Predetermination of what the correct answer is going to be, and searching for that. Another book that's I just finished is quite interesting. This does the political arena as well, but it's called Lies, Inc., or Lies Incorporated.
Right.
And it points out there that many of these situations use what they call the tobacco model. That 1912, 1914, tobacco industry knew that they were causing cancer. It wasn't, until almost a century later before it got mainstream. But their approach was not to deny that tobacco caused cancer. It was just to raise questions. You hear that now on climate change, for instance. Only 98% of all climatologists agree. Well, okay, there's 2%. And so what you were talking about is real here. To the average person, it just gets overwhelming.
Yeah, but we also have a situation here where one of the major political parties in the United States does not believe in science. Some of them still believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old. And when you point out to that 98% of climate scientists, well, they may think it's a plot by China, or at least somebody said that. We've got Colonel John Alexander. I don't know where that started. With Gina and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on our distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
If you want to get your website online and you need reliable service, first-class service at the lowest possible price, there's only one place to go. Well, DreamHost has a special promotion with our show where they'll offer you unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click web apps such as WordPress, 24/7 support. You can save over $55. You want to know how? Go to dreamhost.com/radio, dreamhost.com/radio.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-403-4885. That's 1-800-403-4885. 1-800-403-4885. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop, you save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771.
You haven't experienced yogurt until you've tried a Mossy, embodying health and flavor in a true whole milk, green-fed dairy beverage. Every sip pays homage to our old world cows and the ancient culturing methods their milk benefits from. With over 30 probiotics, a Mossy's undeniably nutritious, refined, cultured sensation bolsters your health and awakens your passion for dairy. A Mossy's so good, and you need to try it. Contact your Youngevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, the Mineral Doctor. You've heard me talk about 90 for Life for years. 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 2 fatty acids. You may not know this, that I've actually designed Arthrodex for animals. That's right. Your pets need 90 for Life, too. Get this essential pet product by calling 877-279-9422. That's 877-279-9422. Again, 877-279-9422.
As a doctor, I see patients every day who are losing their vision to age-related macular degeneration, also known as AMD. If you have blurry vision or blind spots, they can be symptoms of AMD, and if untreated, could lead to blindness. The good news, AMD can be managed with effective clinically approved treatments that may reverse some vision loss. For free AMD information, contact the Foundation Fighting Blindness at 1-800-BLINDNESS. That's 1-800-BLINDNESS. There is a cure in sight.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Okay, so do you believe in climate change contributed to by humans?
Absolutely.
Well, then it's interesting because you're at odds with this book that Stanton Friedman wrote with Kathleen Marden, Science Was Wrong.
Stan's a great guy and a great researcher, and we agree to disagree on a number of areas.
No. Kind of hard to look at the time-lapse photography of the North Pole, the old ice as it's slowly is disappearing, basically, or to find all those polar bears swimming around looking for an iceberg to climb onto.
One of the things I do is, when in doubt, and this is true in UFOs or all that, I go to first-hand data. And I think the thing that really got my attention, it was on Mount Everest at the base camp at 18,000 foot level. The first thing, we were on the north side, so technically China side. and I was amazed at the amount of water that there was on the Tibetan plateau. But the problem is that's a one-time thing because we're talking about melt that was coming off. And one of the things I had noticed was that the level snow line was at 22 to 24,000 feet. Yeah, we saw snow a little bit down at, maybe as low at times as 15, but not. You didn't see solid snow until you got way up, and that's new. I'm not sure. I have not read Stan's book, in fairness, but there's a lot of others, people who tend to agree with that. But I think that, my opinion, the evidence is pretty much overwhelming, and that we are the cause. When you look at the speed of change, and particularly what we were looking at, what Chris just mentioned about areas in the North Pole, that's true. It hasn't totally disintegrated yet or thawed free in summer, but you do have sort of a Northwest Passage available on occasion. But it's the amount, and you take all of the projections of where this is going, and you find that it's the actual melt is going faster than even the most rigid perception or projections.
Now, I read an article the other day about the Great Barrier Reef being substantially damaged as a result. But you see, this is part of the problem, too, with science nowadays. Obviously, a lot of scientists have to depend on government largesse to do their work. But we have, of course, certain politicians who want to cut the budgets for everything except for the tax cuts to be put into their pockets. So they won't fund anything. They don't believe in science. They don't believe in roads and bridges either, I gather. Maybe they just want to use their helicopters. But whatever it is, if there is a hostility to science, how does a young scientist who wants to make a difference, what do they do?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I was actually diving on the Great Barrier Reef in December, and you can certainly see it. The areas that there's some areas that have been protected by the UNESCO, but those are actually fairly small. Now, you do hear debates, even down there. We had oceanographers who are saying, well, it's not dying off in its entirety. The other thing to remember is the Great Barrier Reef has that name for a reason. We literally sailed past it for 3 days. So you're talking a huge area, but you are seeing quite a bit of it, bleached out, dying off.
Yeah, which is sad because it is considered the largest living superorganism on the planet. And, what we're doing to the Pacific Ocean, I wish we had time to get into a whole conversation about Fukushima, the lack of media coverage of that absolute probably the worst environmental catastrophe caused by humans, besides possibly, you could go in and say global warming could be about as bad. But we have effectively, written the death sentence for the Pacific Ocean if something's not done with the Fukushima problem, with pouring millions of gallons of highly irradiated water into the Pacific Ocean, not to mention the Central Pacific plastic gyre that is just sitting there.
Well, that, I think, is a bigger issue, frankly.
So you don't think that the Fukushima issue, do you still eat sushi?
I frankly don't care for bait, but that's a personal choice.
You think raw fish should be used as bait?
Yeah.
Well, every time I have it, I love it. It's one of my favorite cuisines. I bless the food and say, please let there not be a hot particle in this fish that's top of the food chain. Or near the top, I should say.
Remember, a day without radiation is a day without sunshine.
Yeah. Well, we do have a number of questions from one of our listeners. SRL has been a faithful Paracast listener for going on 6 years. He's almost up to 1,000 questions or messages on our forum. And again, if you're a listener to the Paracast, you can sign up at our forum and go to the question bank at forum.theparacast.com, where you can ask questions of our wonderful esteemed guests like today's John Alexander. And SRL considers himself a facilitator of peace and tranquility. And he's 45% jaded, 40% disenchanted, and 15% lemming. Some of our listeners really do have senses of humor. Well, he's got a bunch of questions here, and a number of them, of course, as you would think, are about the Skinwalker Ranch, the so-called Skinwalker Ranch, which I've never liked that name, by the way.
That came after the fact. That was that was something that outsiders added, not something we derived.
And I don't think it's very accurate. But the one question that's interesting here that I want to start with is, what's your opinion of why Robert Bigelow would request that George Knapp not share publicly this particular video of an orb navigating around a doorway at the former Sherman residence? And, he also points out that Jacques Vallee in the past has stated that Bigelow has not concealed additional earth-shattering data besides what's already been released into the public domain through, obviously, the reports that, and very good reports, I might add, that NIDS published, and, of course, the Knapp and Kelleher book. Do you know about this video? Is this something that you're aware of?
I'm not sure what the question is. I think the short answer is no, but what are we talking about?
Well, he's wondering that, first of all, is there still science going on up there is one of the questions. I think it's
to my knowledge, no, but I'm totally out of that loop.
Yeah. Well, the knee-jerk assumption out there is after almost 20 years up there that in those first 7 or 8 years were fairly intense with personnel on the ground, equipment, that sort of thing, that some sort of data that may be of a titillating nature, I might add, had been collected, but because it couldn't be replicated, it was not released.
Folks, we break now, and then we have John's answer. Okay. More to come with John B. Alexander and Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pileski of the Pileski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
This is David Cordani, CEO of Cigna. For more than 20 years, Cigna has worked with the March of Dimes to address premature births in the U.S. Premature births cause horrible suffering and cost billions of dollars each year. That's why Cigna is committed to raising funds and awareness through our employees, family, and friends to improve the health of moms and babies. Please join us in supporting the March for Babies. Start your team today at marchforbabies.org.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich? Working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare? Having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom106.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom106.com. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom106.com.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care, as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Hey, this is Marie D. Jones, the author of This Book is from the Future, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Colonel Alexander, what's your answer to our listener's question?
There's a couple of reasons why interest dropped off, and one of them was lack of activity that really changed. And this gets more to something we discussed earlier, and that was, the trickster effect and the whatnot, that we just had, just not enough going on. Again, for a while, things were happening with a fair degree of regularity, and then that changed over time. So I think that's certainly a piece of it. Another, and something that's, I think, far more important, is that, created Bigelow Aerospace, in the news in the last couple of days, has been that the astronaut, they just launched an inflatable system that was up to the ISS, and the news was that somebody had actually entered the compartment that they sent up.
Right. It's been inflated successfully, I might add.
Yes. Yeah, it inflated successfully. But the most recent news was somebody actually entered that container. They did say it was very cold in there. I think he said the internal temperature was 44 degrees. I guess they'll have to work out how to do that. But certainly, his attention got very centrally focused on that, and
right.
With that included allocation of resources, which were definitely finite. So, like I say, I guess the combination of all the things going on is kind of not surprising that we've gone some of it. Well, Bob has always been, relatively secretive. I guess his approach is his money, he can do what he wants with it, and that's probably true.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a nefarious thing, though.
Yeah. Well, again, I think you brought up a very interesting point. It's a private effort by a private individual, and it's totally up to him how much or how little is going to be made public. The fact that he, I think was fairly I really don't know his thinking about the Kelleher Knapp book, but I'm sure he didn't foresee that the book, instead of putting the whole thing kind of to rest and giving people something to chew on, basically what it ended up doing is fanning the flames of attention, I think. And all through the early 2000s, we saw an incredible amount of attention being placed up there with people just arriving in droves. Have you seen this book?
Something to watch for then that I just heard from George Knapp is 60 Minutes has done a piece on Bigelow, and we're just not sure when they were going to air it. So they had hoped to run it in May, but they were waiting for the Musk launch till the thing actually got up there. But if you want something that's going to generate interest, I think 60 Minutes will do far more than any book.
Yeah, or any dogmen smoking cigarettes across the pasture.
Yeah.
I love that story. You know, there's some pretty interesting books that have come out here in the last few years, including one by an alleged security guard up there who says that, you know, they had some experiences. And, of course, Ryan Skinner's succession of books about his particular monitoring of the ranch on occasion. You know, what would happen if, let's say, we had a huge wave of activity just spring up there? Do you think that Mr. Bigelow would go ahead and attempt to marshal some resources to get some scientists back up there? Let's say if stuff really started hitting the fan there, do you think it still has that interest?
I guess you'd have to ask him that. Don't know. And remember, the stuff that's going on with NASA, we had watched some of that. Now, one of the things that I did, I don't know if I mentioned in the book, but as you know, I knew Burt Rutan, who had won the X Prize, putting Mike Melville into space. Great honor. I was actually there on the ground the day that happened. Again, with Bigelow working in this, frankly, moving at light speed. The point with Burt was that he had done for an estimated $25 million. He'd created a new rocket, new launch vehicle, the White Knight, and all of the accoutrements that with that. My point in all this is that he and Bigelow are doing the same thing, and that is attacking the business model. The point with that diatribe on Burt was that with all the things he had done quite effectively, and what I like about him is he tells you what he's done. Everybody was expecting Bugraph and engineering telling you what they're going to do. You know, he tells you what he's done. He said, did that for $25 million, and the NASA couldn't have done the paperwork for $25 million. With Bigelow, I actually had access to some of his numbers and was doing some guessing, and I talked to him about it. This was a couple of years back, and I said, my guess is that, and what I was doing was basing the cubic space available up there compared to ISS. And I said, my guess is that you have a 30-to-1 cost advantage. And the response was that would be conservative.
It just goes to show you that when it comes to government funding versus, the inspiration of private business, things get done. Not only do they get done more efficiently and faster, but they tend to, because of that commercial marketplace always hovering in the background, it tends to be more viable, and I think in a more timely manner.
Well, I think there are functions the government would routinely do that don't work well in private industry because the profit motive can affect it. That's why.
Like jail?
Well, private jails is one. Also, possibly healthcare, although they're limited in the amount of profits by the current.
I have to be for single payer.
Healthcare, perhaps, because there are inefficiencies in the fact that 20% of your healthcare dollar, or 25%, will go to the healthcare insurance company's profits. You were about to say, John.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I am for single payer, and The problem is that this stuff is being run by the insurance companies and for the insurance companies.
This is what people forget about the healthcare law in the U.S., which is it was designed by the Republican Heritage Foundation in 1989. That exact plan with the mandate for you to buy insurance was then picked up by Mitt Romney in Massachusetts before being adapted by the same people who developed the Massachusetts plan for Obama. But as soon as he did it, it had to be wrong, even though it was, as I said, just a federal version of a state plan. But It is a give back, a giveaway to private industry, the private insurance companies. Now, we don't always get a chance to tell you about future episodes, but now we can. So next week on the Paracast, we'll have a Breakaway Civilizations Roundtable. Our guest will be very prolific author Joseph Farrell, and we'll also hear from Walter Bosley, who will be a member of the panel. That's next week's episode of the Paracast on Breakaway Civilizations. And the following week, we'll be talking to Robert Damon Schneck. And he's author of a book called The Bye-Bye Man. How's that for a title, folks? The Bye-Bye Man and Other Strange but True Tales. Kind of like ghost stories and such. We haven't had a good ghost story episode in quite a while. So that's going to be 2 weeks from now. And we've got a lot of other stuff in the works. Check out our forums at forum.theparacast.com for news of upcoming episodes and a chance to ask questions of our guests. We've got a lot more to come with Colonel John Alexander, a few more questions from listeners, and more with Gene and Chris. You're in
The Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's Lemke soft.com. Lemkesoft.com. Lemke soft.com.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
The best kept secret in the firearms business is CDNNsports.com. CDNN Sports is the largest firearms liquidator in the U.S. We've got optics, accessories, gun parts, magazines, ammunition, and more. Sign up for our email specials today for the best gun deals, period. You will also be entered to win a Winchester 101 field shotgun. Go to Charlie, Delta, November, Sports.com. That's CDNNsports.com.
Are you worried about how dangerous the world has become? In these days of terrorist attacks, natural disasters, or even a future collapse, you need to be medically prepared to keep your family safe. I'm Joe Alton, MD of store.doomandbloom.net, where you'll find an entire line of uniquely designed medical kits and supplies for when help is not on the way. For everything from individual first aid kits to the ultimate family medical bag, go to store.doomandbloom.net today. That's store.doomandbloom.net. You'll be glad you did.
Imagine your life 5 years from now. Are you on the path you want to be on? It's time to take control of your future by getting a world-class education from one of the nation's top universities. Arizona State University is now offering over 100 top-tier degree programs 100% online. It's the exact same degree our on-campus students receive, but you can learn from anywhere in the country on your own schedule. For information, call 1-800-939-9634. Learn from ASU's world-renowned faculty and use ASU's global recognition to improve your visibility, professional network, and gain real-world experience you can start using today. The Wall Street Journal ranked ASU 5th in the nation for producing the best qualified graduates. Now discover how ASU Online can stand out on your resume and help separate you from the competition. We're ready to help you learn to thrive in your life, in your career, and beyond. To learn more about ASU Online degrees, call 1-800-939-9634. That's 1-800-939-9634.
As a doctor, I see patients every day who are losing their vision to age-related macular degeneration, also known as AMD. If you have blurry vision or blind spots, they can be symptoms of AMD, and if untreated, could lead to blindness. The good news, AMD can be managed with effective clinically approved treatments that may reverse some vision loss. For free AMD information, contact the Foundation Fighting Blindness at 1-800-BLINDNESS. That's 1-800-BLINDNESS. There is a cure in sight.
Hi, it's Grant Cameron from presidentialufo.com. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So I don't know if you want to go any further into that, John, before we get to more questions on the Paracast.
Well, no, I do think healthcare is an issue that needs to be looked at very, as we are almost last in the technologically developed countries. We pay more, and yet what's delivered is far less than what you see in other technical developed countries. We're now at a position where we're starting to see certain demographics with a declining life expectancy. We got areas of the country where infant mortality is worse than parts of darkest Africa. We could go on, and you could do a whole program on that. But we've created a illness profit industry, as Stephen Schwartz likes to say.
Let's not forget the whole malpractice issue too. I think the amount of testing that goes on, which is basically to cover the doctor's ass, for lack of a better term, the redundancies and just endless tests just to make sure that there's no malpractice issues and doctors are not being. Let's put it this way.
Another problem, though, is there's absolutely no price control. I don't know if you've ever had an actual bill from hospital. One of my favorite ones, somebody was in the hospital and a vitamin A pill that they had given. I forget the exact cost, but it costed out at 28,000 times what you would just going to the store and buying the pill outright. It's just outrageous.
Well, I think it verges on criminal myself. $60 for a single aspirin at an emergency facility. It's just, and what we're seeing is people not being able to afford their medication. They have to pick between feeding themselves and their families and medicine. I mean, it's ridiculous when you go in. I quit smoking about 16, 17 months ago, and I'm dealing with some small and minor COPD issues, but just an emergency inhaler, which you used to be able to get a little Primatene sprayer for about $14. I mean, you're talking $70, $80 for something that probably costs pennies to manufacture. And again, I don't want to get into a debate of the capitalist system and shareholders and making sure that your quarter earnings reports are okay to your shareholders in any of that. But I think there definitely has to be a cap placed on just the outrageousness of medicine and pharmaceutical costs and medical care costs. Look at that Jacques Vallee character, whoever he was, that bought the AIDS medicine and jacked the price up like he did. He became the poster boy for this whole subject. One would hope that kind of momentum will continue through the industry, and that the rampant greed I mean, you can't really call it anything else. The rampant greed is addressed for the sake and well-being of our health.
I think one of the big issues that is overlooked, though, is people have talked about certain rates increasing, and they certainly have. But there seems to be a myth that those costs didn't exist previously. And the answer is yes, it did. The people who were off now have some health care that didn't before. Many of them were, in fact, getting health care. The point was they were going to emergency rooms, a very expensive option on doing it, and it was getting paid just through your tax dollars. You just didn't happen to see it identified as such.
Well, I think we're going to see more and more of that. I think it's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of a problem here in the near future. I think more and more people who can't afford health care, can't afford medicines, are using emergency rooms as their primary care. And that's why we're seeing reduced life expectancy.
No, I say that's just an expensive option.
Yeah, it is. And everybody else ends up paying for it.
That was one of the purposes of the healthcare law, to get people out of emergency rooms and to make healthcare available to almost everyone. But then the Supreme Court, in kind of finagling with the law, said that the states don't have to have Medicaid. And therefore, if they don't have Medicaid, what happens? The people in those states go to the emergency rooms.
Right. Well, you're raising a macro issue there, and that is, are we and do we still want to be a republic?
Well, that's going to be something which is way beyond the scope of this show, which is UFOs and the paranormal. And we're talking about scientists, having difficulty getting grants. But this is also one of the reasons why these subjects never get investigated, because a scientist will have to be independently wealthy to consider it, because right now you have to look at the situation. Grant money is difficult to get. Maybe private industry will give it to them. The second thing is they've got the student loans to pay off. You want to get a doctorate in anything, well, you have $100,000 in student loans. So you'll have to have two jobs anyway, and the second one's going to be at Wendy's.
But the problem is bigger, and I've used some actual numbers, and this gets back to the worldview. If you're doing things that are materialistic, and we can we start looking for the God particle, and I think we're now down to petaquarks and things of that nature. In other words, we can get it smaller and smaller. We are willing to put and have put about almost $18 billion into the Large Hadron Collider. How much money is in UFO research? The point is, research can be expensive, but when you start by what are you going to research, I use a similar example in near-death studies, a continuation of consciousness beyond bodily death. This is something that really does impact, virtually 100% of society, and yet almost no research efforts involved in that. You get a few private foundations who, dribble it, but nothing compared to what you're putting into finding the God particle.
Well, you have to understand, if a major drug company wanted to finance it because they'll come up with some kind of medical development where they can sell the drug for $100,000 a month, I assure you they'll find the money.
Well, but remember, they're generally funded because you die.
Right, so there's nobody to pay them.
Continue it. So if we're going to say, by the way, dying may not be as bad as what we think, that's not the solution they would like to achieve.
Yeah, well, it's like the American Cancer Society and cancer research. I mean, you wouldn't have this multi-billion-dollar industry if there was a cure for cancer. There'd be a lot of people out of jobs, and the monies being allocated to the problem would go elsewhere. And so you have kind of a sort of a self-perpetuating treadmill of money being spent, and no results really coming from it, or very, very little results.
The long and short of it is, there's no money in it for people who want to investigate UFOs, Bigfoot, etc. John Alexander, please tell our listeners where they can find more of the stuff that you write about.
Best place, I'd guess, is my website, or you can Google. I've done a number of articles for Huffington Post. Most of them are in the straight world, and including things like how to defeat ISIS without American troops. But all of them are linked on my website. The easiest way to get that, rather than remember, is just Google my name, John B., the middle initial, Alexander.
You can find us on Twitter if you look for the Paracast. We have 2 Paracast fan clubs. One's a community, one's a group on Facebook, and we can't merge them. We have After the Paracast, the show where we wrap things up. We have more guests. We talk about things that don't go bump in the night. We talk about anything that strikes our fancy, even nasty letters from listeners about Chris being grumpy. And the language is a little freer on After the Paracast. You can only get it if you subscribe to the Paracast Plus at plus.theparacast.com. So we offer After the Paracast, the commercial-free version of this show, and higher quality audio, and lots of other features. Check them out. Go to plus.theparacast.com. Once again, plus.theparacast.com. John B. Alexander, thanks for joining us on the Paracast.
Thank you now.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible, Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.